Is that what you
Now
said?
it's recording. And I pressed
And
the
that's
week.
Passover
Yep.
during this was
Yeah,
after
it's around
39.
the time.
It's also 39 already. The Russians came to us 39, September 39.
No, but you mentioned having dinner,
Yeah,
Passover
different
dinner.
thing.
with
Yes,
one of
sometimes we had it on Jew. It was Russian at the time, you know. Yes, and he enjoyed it very much.
I mean,
How can you not enjoy Passover food?
That's definitely.
Have you ever had any Passover food?
I'll have to.
I don't know if you would have enjoyed it.
It's delicious.
Yeah. Well, the matzo balls you might enjoy. Chicken soup, matzo balls. Ever heard of it?
okay. How do we start this now?
So we'll start with September 39, correct?
Um,
That's what you want?
Well, first, now I want to hear about your boyfriend. Then.
Oh,
We're gonna start with that.
I ignited your curiosity. Well, yeah, that's right. I mean,
Is that right?
before 1939, yes, I had a boyfriend, and his name was Nathan. And, well, yeah, we went out to the movies, we went out to museum, you know, and he was about 2 years my senior. He was in a different school. Now, his school had the dances, I went with him. And when my school had the dances, he went with me, you know, so. And this is just all I want to tell you about. It was nothing special, but I'll tell you. Asked about it, I should have told you.
And what year was that you two?
That was, we had 38, yes, 38, and we went to 39, and then when the Russians came, shall I start already about it?
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, if that goes right into
Yeah,
it.
when the Russians came, he was too rich for the Russians, you know, came from a wealthy family, so they evacuated the whole family. In 1940, the whole family was evacuated to Siberia. And while I'm on that pic, okay, I'm gonna jump a little bit if it's okay.
And we'll come back.
I was in contact with him. I used to write to him, you know, send packages to him. And then after the war, a mutual friend of ours came from Siberia, came back to Poland, and I was already liberated. So he came to the house and he told me that he's alive, you know, but he didn't come back. But later on, we did meet. Later on, we met in Israel, as a matter of fact. He was married and I was married already at the time. And that's about it about him. Now he's passed away already several years. I was in touch with him all along, you know,
That's great.
while he was in Israel. And as I said, I went there with my husband, we went there for dinner, he invited us for dinner. It was very nice, but it was just beautiful memories, that's all.
Do you have any specific memories with him, like something, a great night together, or
Well-
a fun time?
He was, you know, he was a jealous type. Listen to him, just listen to that, what he did. He had a very close friend. And this close friend calls me up that he wants to come and visit with me, which I took it for granted, why not? He came to the house and he made like, I'm gonna write down whom I love best, you know, and you write down whom you love best. And I wrote down Nathan, and I also wrote down his name, you know, and the list of actors and all that, and then his name too. And he gave it to Nathan, and we burned from how could you do such a thing? Well, this is just a little episode, you know, that had happened during the time. But as I said, when they were evacuated to Siberia, it's 39, the Russians already in Bialystok, so we started there, correct?
Right.
Okay, they came in September of 1939, and of course the whole life had changed right away, including boyfriends too.
Do you want to actually start? Do you remember the first night
When the Russians
when you
came.
first realized that things were totally different and the Russian soldiers
Oh
started
well,
coming
the
in?
first thing that we noticed, of course, was the schedule in school had changed. Remember I told you there wasn't normal 5 days of schooling, it was 10 days and the 11th day was off. And this got with the chemistry thing, remember I told you about it, that was the thing. And of course the first thing that in school we had a lot of refugees that came from Western Poland and came to us, and the teachers as well, teachers from Western Poland. And I told you about the language, that you couldn't change it, so everything was to be in Jewish now. And of course, that was the first thing. Of course, the school changed into Jewish. You know, neither one of us, we spoke Jewish, but we really didn't know the language. And now we had to literature and everything and writing. It was another little incident. They'll tell you, there were questions, what does your father do? And of course, you had to say that your father was a working man, otherwise it was very dangerous in Russians. So you write working man Jewish, you write with an H, with an A. And the way I pronounced it was with a H, Habata, you know. So my teacher was a very nice guy, just perished already too. So he called up all those things that we wrote out, and amongst others, he said, Bluma, you know what you wrote that your father was a Habata, with an H, you know. So the little incidents like that. And we were very busy in school. They tried to keep us very busy at school, you know, with different business, like different kinds of job clubs, like, you know. And very often we had lectures. That was already a Russian who knew Jewish, was a Russian, a communist, and he was trying to get out of us whether our families are happy with the new regime, you know. So talk about your families, you know. Well, how many families do they wanted us to tell, you know, to spy on our own families. Of course, we didn't. We were old enough to understand that. We said, yeah, they're happy, this and the other, you know. And as I said, we had already then, we have a lot of refugees. Amongst them were also the teachers as well as students. And they got another boyfriend, you know, so a refugee boyfriend that came from Warsaw. And his name was Adam, in case you remember. So, and my sister-in-law, I was very close with my youngest sister-in-law. It was Aaron's wife, you know, my brother Aaron.
Right.
I was very close with her, and she used to tell me when I used to talk to her about the school and all that. She used to tell me, well, who are you going to marry today? Every day I had somebody else to marry. So that's, and that was for the Russians, right? And you know.
Sorry, thank you.
And then, as I told, yeah, another thing there was, of course, there was an immediate shortage in coal, in wood, to keep the school warm. So we had a very nice professor who came from Warsaw too, and he wanted to keep, we believe it was we usually girls, we stayed in class, it was a co-ed, by the way, did I tell you that? And with girls, we had gloves on, and a little hats on our head, because it was very cold in class, we couldn't concentrate on the class, on the lecture. So one day we came to class and had a big palm on the blackboard and wrote on Sahara. I says, how do you feel, children? Is it warmer? We are in Sahara. So this is little things, you know, that I remember from school. And as far as the schedule, it remained the same, these classes, you know, with the school, we had a big pause at the time we had our luncheons, and the same activities, but more intense as far as politics is concerned. As I told you, they came and talked to us about politics, and they wanted so much for us to spy on our parents and families, tell them maybe they're not happy with the regime and so forth. That was going on until 1941. At the time, my youngest brother, Morris, was drafted into the army. So I spent a lot of time to the Russian army. And I was spent a lot of time with my sister-in-law, and she already had a little baby. So I spent a lot of time with her. She lived on my way to school. Of course, we were walking to school. So on my way so after school, I was coming to her and see how she's doing and spend some time with her. And then, of course, school. And I told you about the story that the exams came along, and we said, how will we know anything in Russian? How will be the exams? So in Russian, it sounds like, put yourself on me, you know, so rely on me, but in Russian sounds a little different. So he says, well, you'll do it. And somehow we did, I don't know. We all passed, this is one thing. You know, that was the attitude. We had the understanding that the professors were very much interested in us to pass, have good marks, because that was credit to them. You know, they got the credit if the students were good, and although we didn't, but so he gave us good marks in order for him to have a better position. So when the exams came, we passed. They also had a prom. It was called Wypускny ball, so we could invite some friends. So of course I invited Adam, which was 13, and he didn't actually graduate it because he wasn't prepared for the subject when he came from Warsaw, you know. Anyway, he came to the prom, and we had a good time. That night, when he came from the prom, I went back to my sister-in-law because she was closer to the house. I wouldn't have to walk at night even with my friend, but still I stayed with her.
And what was her name again? Sorry.
My sister-in-law's
Mm-hmm.
Helen.
Helen?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, fine. Now that night, the night, I think I told you that, the night of this prom night,
Do you remember the date?
Germany attacked Russia. So it was the 22nd of June.
Mm-hmm.
They attacked. Why do I know? Because because there's a song about it, you know. 22 июня, the 22nd of June, the Germans marched into our part of Russia, which was Poland once upon a time. That was the story with Poland, you know. Every few years it changed. Were occupied the Germans, the Lithuanians, the Poles, whoever. Okay, so of course I stayed with my sister-in-law and the baby, and there also lived, I think I told you, some Russian soldiers lived also in this court, and we asked them what's happening. You have bombs and fires. He says, no, it's nothing, it's just maneuvers. They didn't know themselves because it was very unexpected. They had a pact with him. And then about later on in the day, my father came home and says, listen, children, you come to our house, we'll all stay together. It's war. Already there are fires and people had been killed and all that. So this is what we did. We packed my sister and the baby and some stuff, and we went back to my parents' house. And well, school was over. So what did we do? Well, that's not. We didn't go any place. We stayed in the house, and now the Germans walked in. One week, we already had the German soldiers into the city. And well, immediately there was a shortage of food, of course. So we tried to walk for the Germans so we can get some food from the non-Jewish population. You know. And I walked also for an army unit or whatever. And they were really nice. The army was nice. They didn't persecute us, you know, especially. Of course, you had to walk in the toilets and wash the windows, close the floors. And immediately the restrictions to us, the Jewish population, had taken place. I think I mentioned it, they rounded up 2,000 Jews about the big synagogue and put it on fire, and of course all perished. And my sister was living close to the synagogue. So my parents insisted of her to take her little boy and come to us and stay with us. So she also came with us. Her husband was a very good mechanic, so he got a good job there. So what was the good job? He could get a piece of bread and something to the bread from the army. He was working for the army. So we had a little bit of proviant, food into the house. And of course there were rations. It just became food on the rations. There was very, very little. In order to have some contact with the Jewish population, the Germans ordered to build a Jewish council. It's called Judenrat. And of course, members of the Jewish council were all the prominent Jews in the city. It was the main rabbi and the port.
Were any of them your friends at all that were on there, or family friends?
No. Well, I mean, people that I knew as friends of my parents, you know, but not my age people weren't
Right.
in the Judenrat. And through them, of course, that was the first thing. The Jews were not allowed to be outside the streets after dark, where the yellow star back in front with Jude on it, Jew. They were not allowed to go to the park, sit on the benches. But such restrictions took place. But of course, as I say, we went on our own, not organized groups, but on our own. We went to walk for them so we could get some contact with the non-Jewish population, but exchange things, take out a tablecloth or a pillow or something for the peasant, and they would give us some food for it that they had in the house. Even their fruits they had, forget it, fruits and vegetables were not obtainable, but for them we got it. Until they decided to build a ghetto. which ordinarily this part of the city would hold 25,000 people. There are 50,000 Jews who lived in the other, so they were all to be concentrated at that place.
Do you remember what year the ghetto was built in?
Oh yes,
And the date?
1941. 1941. I don't remember exactly the month, but it was towards the end of the year, because they came into September. No, they came into, I think the Germans came in September, right? No, September was,
June, I
the
thought.
Russians came in September,
Oh, yeah, she said June.
or the Germans came.
22nd of June, right?
Okay, well, anyway, it was towards the end of the year
Mm-hmm.
that they decided to concentrate all the Jews in one part of the city. As I say, normally how 25,000, maybe 25,000, well, 50,000 Jews were to be concentrated. So the house that we had now, my sister-in-law was there, my sister had to come in with me, and my brother and the other sister-in-law. The oldest brother was very close with his in-laws, and they exchanged the houses. A non-Jewish population that was living in the assigned quarters to the ghetto, they had to move, so they exchanged it. They gave them their house, and covered there. So my oldest brother and sister-in-law, the two children, lived separately, not with us in our house. And of course, everybody had to walk. So my father was working as a carpenter, and my brothers were working in a firm that Maurers, I was thinking German.
A wall builder.
You know what a Maurer is in German?
Yeah, I speak German.
Also, you know what a Maurer is?
It's like a wall builder, right? That's what
Well,
someone puts
yes,
together.
okay. So,
Building, putting
yes,
bricks
so it was in a
together.
building firm, let's put it this way, it doesn't matter. And the same firm also had a painting firm there too. So he arranged for us, the girls, to wash, clean up after the painters, and they were working, so we could go out together out of the ghetto. Now, once the ghetto was built, of course, labor and material was provided by the Jewish Council, by the Jews, and then we couldn't go out by ourselves, I had to go in groups. And inside the ghetto was a Jewish militiaman, and outside of that entrance or exit of the ghetto was a German with a machine gun and a German Shepherd dog who were taught to kill. Now, if he came back with the groups, they knew that we are smuggling food into the ghetto, so we were searched by random, whomever they felt like picking up. I don't know if I mentioned it, but if he so, say it again. So in my group, I witnessed that a woman was trying to smuggle in some eggs with her underwear. She was found out, she was searched, she was found out, she was made to drink him, a beating, she didn't get up. And another incident was in my group, was a man was trying in some oil, which was mazola or resinol, it was machine oil that the peasants were making. And he was trying to smuggle it in, he was found out, made to drink, was beaten and didn't get up. And such incidents came up constantly. Now, besides that, in the ghetto, once they are concentrated with all the Jews in the ghetto, they had a very easy access to them. So, there were roundups. Every single day, some Jews disappeared. They rounded them up. The most infamous one was the Saturday Jews, that we called them. Those 1,000 men, they rounded them up, and they did it in a different sort of way. They had requested a ransom from the Judenrat, from the Jewish Council, in order to free those Jews. Needless to say that everybody had anything of value, whether it was a radio that we still have, or a bicycle, or anything at all, it was a value brought to the council. The Jews were never returned. They were shot right outside the ghetto limits, and of course the ransom was paid. That was the kind of life that was going, of course, and because of the roundups, the population was decimated, or less and less of us. So we took streets off, and now we have 15 people already living in my house, and others as well, because the streets off, so people who remained had to live someplace. So we lived more and more people into the houses.
So could you tell us actually more about like the actual houses and the situation within the homes? And
Oh well, I'll tell
people that were
you
there?
about my house. We had 3 rooms and a kitchen. So the first room was like the dining room. That was next to the kitchen was that we used mostly like what I say a kitchenette, right? So the everyday meals were taken in that kitchenette. When we had some more people in, the table was thrown out and beds were put in so that people could sleep in there. And then there was dining room, which normally we used it just for holidays or gatherings where a lot of people come. There was a normal dining room set with big tables, the buffet and all that. And then there was a big bedroom, my parents. And then I had a little room too.
You had your own room.
I had a little room. At first I shared it with my youngest brother. Once he got married and he left, so I had the room to myself. So this was the house. This was our apartment that we lived. It wasn't a house. It was an apartment. Yeah, and just when, as I say, the Germans came to all those rooms were full with beds because people had to sleep someplace. So there was beds all over the house, and everybody stayed in the house. And where were we?
Do you have any specific memories when it got really crowded in there, and
Well,
like a specific story or incident?
that was something we adjusted very easily to, as long as the family was together. And not only the family, now we had strange people too coming. Like refugees, they came from war, so they had nobody, young people, middle-aged people. So we also had to take them in, we wouldn't be in the streets, So there was a young man from Warsaw, and he was a sick person. He was sick. He had the epilepsy. We didn't know that, but at one time, he had an attack. It was laying on the floor, and all the foams coming out of his house. And oddly enough, him I met in the first camp, the first concentration camp in Majdanek. He risked his life. Well, what shall I take to tell you now? I'll tell you later.
No, we'll get to that later.
Okay.
So
he again, wait a minute, was my boyfriend Leighton was evacuated, didn't have him. My boyfriend, the refugee was also evacuated, because the Soviets did that. Before the Germans came, they had all those refugees fill out some papers whether they want to go back to the western part of Poland. People who wrote that they don't want to go back, they were all evacuated to the Siberia. So that refugee that I told you, Stach, not Polish, he also evacuated, he wasn't there anymore. So in the ghetto I had another boyfriend. And his name was Jerzy. Jerry, it's called Jerry. And he was walking. I was walking outside of the ghetto, as I told you, cleaning and this, and he was walking in the ghetto. Bialystok was a textile center, and many of the factories remained within the ghetto. And of course, the Jews were walking there. And so he was one who was walking in the ghetto. I was walking outside. My sister-in-law, we were walking at the painter's firm, but the men were walking at the buildings, as you said. It's actually the people. Okay, it's really important. And he was walking inside of the ghetto. Every day, more and more people disappeared. Besides being sick and dying from hunger, you see them in the streets laying around. Also, the roundups took place constantly. They took him out. People returned from work. But we wanted to go to work because they had all the opportunity to enrich our daily food. Is to have a contact with the non-Jewish population that was outside. However, it happens that very many people have lost their lives while walking in those groups, because the Germans just killed them because they felt like it, That was going on, that kind of life, if you call it life, was going on till November of 1943.
So I have a quick question, kind of backtracking. I'm kind of curious about moving to the ghetto for everyone. How did that take place for you, or just that moving everything into one room?
No, whatever you can take with you. There were no vehicles.
Right.
And there was no company to move you.
Right.
So whatever you can take with you, that's what you do.
What did you guys, for example, take?
I didn't. I stayed in my house.
Oh, but your family joined you.
Yeah, my
right?
family. So
What did they bring in?
The clothes and some of things that there were pictures, something that meant something to them. and mainly clothes and whatever little food they had left, they brought into the house. But it's only thing that you could carry yourself, you know, there was no company to move you. So whatever you could take, you take. I really sometimes, I don't remember how come that we had so many beds, where did we get that? I presume that maybe from people that were taken out of the houses and the houses were empty, so maybe took those beds inside because there was no way to take the beds from their apartments into our. So I presume this is what it was. When the Jewish Council told you that there's a house and nobody's there, you can have whatever is there. So I suppose this is where we took those beds. And because, as I said, the whole house was full of beds, people had to sleep.
And then, I mean, was it still relatively I mean, clearly it wasn't comfortable, but how?
Well, we did the best we could with under the circumstances. There was the question of comfort, you know, not at all. As long as you had something in your stomach, that was the best thing. And at night you could sleep, and it was quiet. Nobody could come to the house, and at night it really didn't happen. I don't remember anything, any roundups taking place at night. I really don't. It was only during the day.
Was it, I mean, you said that it was during the winter time, it was cold out. How, did you guys have any heating
Well,
devices?
we had, the Soviets were there, we prepared, because the Soviets also had a shortage in everything, you know. So we prepared, we had like a barn outside in the yard, and there we stored woods, because everything was with woods, you know, called woods, we had woods. And so this is how we.
So you guys were
ourselves.
relatively warm then in
Yes,
the winter time?
relatively speaking. And I tell you another thing, we really had no comfort to be really warm, you know, because you had to save it, because we didn't know how long it would last. But we just existed.
Right.
You know, yeah, so this was the story until November of 1942. November of 1942.
That's when you guys were in the ghetto until?
Then everyone.
That's how long you guys were living in the ghettos until 42?
Oh, we still left in the ghetto.
Oh,
We
okay.
lived in the ghetto since September already, but in November of 1940, no. The
No,
end
how
of
long though? When did you leave the ghetto?
Oh, later, I'll
Okay.
come to it.
Okay.
In 1942, the ghetto was closed, and many people couldn't go out. You had to stay inside, couldn't go to work, couldn't go out, couldn't leave the ghetto at all. And some people smuggled themselves in from the little towns. Up till then, up till November of 1942, we really didn't know that concentration camps exist. But when the people came from the little towns where they were liquidated, you know, the little towns and little villages were liquidated with Jews, they told us about it.
So how did they get into the camp?
They smuggled themselves into groups that came from
Oh,
war.
okay.
They became like a part of the group that came from war, and told us about that. It's called resettlement. They're going to resettle the Jews away from the eastern border. They were afraid of the Russians, I presume. And the resettlement, it rounded up the people, and they never were heard of. However, people who were in hiding, many of them succeeded to survive. They built double walls or attics or subcellar, and some of them survived. They weren't found out. So those people smuggled themselves into the ghetto with groups of workers, and they told us about it. There's Auschwitz, there's a Majdanek, there's a Treblinka. That's the first time we heard of it. Now the Jews in Białystok didn't think that they'll be resettled because they were productive Jews, you know, nützliche Juden, you understand that? So, but still, just in case, let's, our family and other families, let's build a hiding place, just in case something happens. It won't, but still, let's do it. So that was, okay, after this resettlement that took place outside of Białystok in the little towns, the ghetto was open, but it was very hard to get out to work. Again, you had to go to groups, naturally, not by yourself. And the people, less and less people returned from work because they were killed right there at work. However, the hunger made us go, so we went. Now, it was going on till February of 1943. In February of 1943, the ghetto was closed, nobody's to go out, nobody's to come in. again, it's a resettlement. By then we knew already what resettlement meant. We had those little hiding places. My family too had a subcellar, and the subcellar prepared some water, a little bit of food, just in case, you know.
So-
But it came handy this time.
Can you tell us about your hiding place?
It was just a subcellar. It was maybe as big as this kitchen. And we were there about 20 people, because neighbors also, they
Right.
didn't, we were on the bottom apartment, so we had the subcellar, they didn't have it. The second floor didn't have it, so they came to us. Many of our neighbors built in the attics, they closed up upstairs and put an attic there, with put some stuff in there, like food and water, just in case, you know. And as I said, my family had those, just as big as this kitchen, I would say, and about 15 or 20 people. We sit in the cellar, and we, during the day, 8 o'clock in the morning, we had 9 o'clock, not 8, but 9 o'clock in the morning, I suppose, we had the trucks coming in. They had a special sound the trucks made, and shooting and crying and screaming. And by 5 o'clock, everything was nice and quiet. So the youngsters, and we were there, myself included, we decided on the third day to go out and see what is happening.
After being in hiding? and all?
Correct. So we went out. It was quiet already. No trucks, no screaming, no shooting. So we assumed that it's quiet, so we went out. We went out, and then the streets were already see corpses of elderly people, and especially of children. And you're talking to other people who went out, just crying, how come there's so many little children dead in the streets? And they told us, of course, that in many cases, the children were in the subcellars, and children cried, revealing by that there are people hiding. The Germans couldn't find the entrance. So very often, the parents themselves choked their children to death, you know, just to save the others that were in the hiding places. This action, as we call it, took place a whole week. After a week, it was quiet already, because nobody could get out of the ghetto. And we found out that the people who were working in the factories in the ghetto were not touched, and they were very easy to round up, because they knew where they were, yet they didn't take them out. Excuse me.
So why were they not taken out then?
Because they produced, I don't know, there was no logic in anything they did, but it's hard to explain. I assume because they needed the materials, the things that they were doing for their armies, you know. Although there's no explanation for that, because they took the trains that took Jews to the concentration camp and didn't have trains enough to take the soldiers to the front. So how can you explain it? So anyhow, so
I'm really curious about this hiding, and what did you guys do while you were down there?
nothing. We were
Nothing?
quiet like mice. We shouldn't make any noise, so nobody would hear us. And we were very sparingly using the food, because we didn't know how long it would take. And that was it. Trying to sleep, trying not to talk, that was very important, so we make no noises. We didn't have any children, like little children would cry.
Who was the youngest?
The youngest was my little nephew. He was about 9 years old, and he understood that he has to be quiet. He didn't make any noise. It was just a nightmare. What can I tell you? And as I said, on the third day we were not so, and then it was prolonged for a whole week. The action was finished. Whoever was found out was gone. And as I walked out into the center of the ghetto, right across from the Judenrat, from the Jewish Council, and there was gallows, and a man was hanging there. And I said, my God, what happened to him? Why was he hanging? What happened? So I was told that the Germans came looking. They knew that people are in hiding. They came looking, 2 Germans and a Jewish militiaman. And whomever they found out, of course, they had taken out. At one point, they opened up the door of a hiding place, and one man that was there threw acid in the face of the German. And the German, having his gun already, killed his comrade. However, the blame came on the Jews. The Jews did it, you know. And they rounded up 500 members of the Jewish Council and proclaimed that if the man will not give himself up, all the 500 people will die. For 2 or 3 days, he didn't give himself up. Now, on the third day, he figured, maybe with my life, I can spare the life of these 500, maybe this time the Germans will keep the war. And that was the man that gave himself up and he was hanging. Because the 500 men were killed anyway.
Do you remember seeing anyone you knew on the streets?
Anyway.
When you came out of high
Oh
school?
yeah, a lot of people came out.
You knew a lot of people?
Oh yeah, a lot of people came out, yes. Even my friend came also to check whether I'm alive or not, this Jerry. And there was a very famous bunker, we call the bunkers, the hiding places. It's called the doctor's bunker. Because in this building, all the doctors concentrate, the Jewish naturally. And rumors were that they have for a year proviant, food and water, electricity and running water and a toilet and everything else for a whole year prepared. The whole population knew about that thing. So now what shall we, so my father said, you will not go out of the ghetto anymore. A fact is that people who are working in the factories remained, so we'll arrange something for you to stay. How can't get a bribe or prepare a sewing machine or something that you'll be able to work in the ghetto. However, while the ghetto was closed in February of 1943, my boss, I didn't tell you about it today. For a while, after I was cleaning the floors and washing the windows, my boss, as a German Nazi member, his name was Mr. Hirschman, and he came and asked for somebody who knows the Gothic script, the old German Gothic script. I took German school, and I knew the Gothic script, but I was afraid to volunteer because I never knew what happened to you if you volunteered. However, my sister who worked with me, my sister was, listen, try, maybe it will be better than washing floors. So I said, okay, I do the Gothic script, and from then on I was working in an office. Of course, I had to wear my insignia that I'm Jewish, and I was going with my foreman, who was a civilian, to take all those places that they walked, to measure it out and prepare the bills. And this is what I was doing. Prepare the bills, prepare the pays. Jews were getting pennies. Non-Jews workers were getting a salary. Also not too much, but more than, and this is what I was doing. And I really became a very good secretary because of them. The Germans were just so accurately and properly. So she taught me things that I didn't know how to work a machine,
The typewriter?
and the typewriter. And he taught me, he brought a typewriter that was working this way, you don't even know what it means, but the letters were going the other way. Anyhow, and that's what I was doing.
How long did you do that for?
And I tell you, that started maybe 1943, 1942, they came in 1941. The end of 1941, I became a secretary. And I worked till the ghetto was closed in February. But in February, the ghetto was closed and I wouldn't be out. My parents didn't want me to go out. And there came a request to the Jewish Council for me to go out of the ghetto. And I was very reluctant of agreeing to go out. However, we were Jewish. What happened? Mr. Hirschman passed away while the ghetto was closed. His wife came down from Ostprussia, Tirsit am Main was their hometown, and she wanted to liquidate the business. But she didn't know anything about it. So she had to have me, the Jews, to come and help her do it. So as I said, very reluctantly, I had to go. So my elder brother was working with the employment office. He says, you have no choice. If she asks you to go, you have to go. So this time she herself would come to the ghetto entrance. Naturally, I was walking in the middle of the street. She was on the
sidewalk?
Sidewalk. And I was going with her and the civilian foreman, also German, from place to place and prepared to the office and prepared the bills. Now, she wanted to sell the place. Another man came down from Germany who wanted to buy the place. His name was Otto Busse. Very important, you should know this name.
How do you spell his name?
Find out well. Otto Busse. And he wanted to buy the place. But he wanted me to walk with him. At the time, he was a member of the Nazi Party and the insignia. What do I know whether he's better than Mr. Hirschman or was? I didn't know anything about it. So I didn't want to go. But again, I was Jewish. And he wanted me to, so I had to go. Now he came himself to the ghetto entrance and walked with me in the middle of the street, in spite that he had the insignia, he's German. And he turned out to be somebody very, very special. I'll come to it too. Now he came to Bialystok with his wife and a little boy. And they had a beautiful apartment. I had my office. In the office, I did not have to wear my insignias that I'm Jewish. And very often I would share the dinner and eat with them. Also very often he would give me something to take to the ghetto, to my parents. And he would walk with me in the middle of the street until we came to the ghetto entrance. And he always had a case with us, a little case. He would put some food in there, some bread, some butter, even a can of beer. He says, your father might enjoy it. And when we came to the ghetto entrance, we would say to the guard, she had no contact with the outside world. She was constantly in my office, and the case that she has, there's some papers for her to walk her home for me. So I was never searched. And I never had papers there either. So this, and of course I was talking about what kind of a person he is. I said I shared the food, and his wife too. And it was very, very, but they treated him like a human being, what can I tell you? And I was preparing his bills, the same thing I was doing for Mr. Hirschman, but nobody that came to the office knew that I was Jewish. So I adapted very fast the Ostprussian German accent. And as I said, nobody thought I was Jewish. Anyhow, and if somebody would come in, wanted to flirt with me, he said, don't interrupt her, she's walking. You know? And that was going on. Well, in the ghetto, I was talking about what kind of a person he is, and they saw that I brought him to how he's treated me. So that was going on to August of 1943. In August of 1943, there was a proclamation that the Jews of Bialystok were to be resettled. Well, by then, of course, we all knew what resettlement meant, and again, everybody went to their hiding places. I mentioned the very famous bunker. Friends of the family.
The hospital bunker, is that the doctor bunker? The doctor's bunker, is that what that is?
Right.
Okay.
A friend of the family, including my boyfriend, his father was also a doctor, so they lived there. So this Jerry came with his father to my family and suggested that our bunker is just nothing. Why don't I go with them? Being the youngest in the family, I had more chances to survive, and they prepared for more. It wasn't a very easy decision for me, nor for my parents, but they came to the conclusion that he might be right. After all, they have prepared things for a year, and it's much better provided for, and a better hiding place, that maybe I should go. And on the 23rd of August 1943, was the last time that I saw my family. And I went with them to the bunker. And indeed, it was everything that we heard of. It had electricity, and a toilet, and running water, and other people, all those doctors that lived there with their families, and also little children who were crying, of course. Some of the doctors were trying to show the children, but crying, they couldn't bring themselves to do it. So we heard the Germans through the walls that indeed they're Jews, and we can't find the entrance, they won't come out. We heard them talk. In the meantime, in the ghetto was an uprising. Out in August, when the proclamation took place that the Jews were to be resettled, the underground put several places fire in order to burn the walls of the ghetto, which was wood, and thereby allowing some people to escape into the forest, where the partisans were very, very active already. So some people did escape to the forest. And I left the family, yes, and took a little suitcase with me, things that I was dear to me, and I went to the book. And indeed, it was everything we heard of. It was very well prepared for a year. but we had children. I said we had the Germans talking, they knew that we were there. And so, and after a week being in the bunker, we had the Germans talk that listen, we can't get in, they won't come out, why don't we throw a firebomb and let them burn? So the elder in the bunker decided that maybe we should ourselves give up instead of being burned alive, you know. So we did. We got also stopped, we were on march. It was already a week after the action began. And we walked out of the bunker, accompanied by the assessment that were there, and went to a big field next to the Jewish hospital.
So wait, how was that bunker set up? I mean, where was the entrance and how did you guys
Well,
get
it was
into that they didn't have?
barricaded with some furniture, the entrance to the bunker. And it seems like they belonged to us, and you couldn't find the entrance. We came in, moved away the first pieces of furniture and go into on our stomachs. We had to go in there, because it wasn't a big door enough, and put it back, the furniture,
What
in from the
furniture was
inside.
there?
Oh, I don't know, buffets, not tables because it's empty, but something was closed, like buffets, boxes, cases, you know, just to camouflage the entrance. And they could never find it. The fact remains they never found it. They looked for it, but they never found it.
And then on the inside, what was that like? I mean,
The
how many
inside was
people
a
were
big, big cellar, and maybe we had about 25, 30 people, maybe more, and children, you know. And as I said, there was a toilet built in already from way back when, so we used that. And they had some food prepared, and no refrigeration, so whatever was there. And no beds, so on the floor, we had sacks of straw were prepared, and we slept on those sacks of straw. So that gives you an idea what it was like. Oh, there was electricity, because it was from before.
So, I mean, what did you use that for? Did you cook with it or?
No, we didn't cook, whatever was there, dry food, no cooking, because smoke and they would smell it, you know, outside. Although they knew already, but we didn't want to give them any hints that we are already there, you know. And who could cook? Who had the patience of cooking, you know? So as I said, we were marched off to that field, and there were already many people that were also found out, because that was a week after the action, so-called, taking place.
So you guys were in the bunker for a week?
Yes,
Okay.
but that was already a week after the action took place, and some people were found out also in hiding places, and or escaped from the column that was going towards the railway station. They were caught. So well, many people were already in the field, and I met my father there. And my father relayed to me that our family bunker was discovered on the third day, and they were all marching toward the railroad station. My oldest brother was trying to escape, and he was shot and killed. My father succeeded to hide himself behind the door. So when the column went by, of course, he was found out and he was brought to that place. He still had a golden piece, you know,
A coin or?
a golden coin. So as a father, he says to me, you take it, maybe it'll save your life. So I took it, of course, and I was staying with the doctor and his son, and his wife, you know, the family with them. In the morning, they were calling out different occupations, carpenters, plumbers, and doctors. I went with a group of the doctors, but I wanted my father. So I approached the assessment, addressed him in German, you know, and I asked him if I can take my father with me. And he says, your father a doctor? In my stupidity and naivete, you know, I says, no, he's not a doctor, can't have him. Give me a slap in the face, he says, can't have him. That was the last I saw of my father. Never saw him. And we were marched off up to the railroad station. There were already cattle cars prepared. And there were the Germans and Ukrainians and Poles and Ukrainians who collaborated with the Germans with machine guns. Because everything had to be in a fast tempo, fast, into the cattle cars. People were trying to come close to the window for some air. I don't know whether we were 200, 300 people there. We got a pail for our physiological need. Could never get to it because it was so tightly packed. And and doors were closed, and started to roll. And while we were going, we had some shooting. People were trying to escape through the little window. Some succeeded to escape and join the partisans in the woods. Many were killed while escaping. I don't know how long we traveled because we lost track of time. There was no water, no food. There was no need for it, no physiological need. As I said, Pale was prepared for us. I couldn't go to it even if I had to. But I know that I stopped functioning as a human being. I wasn't hungry, I wasn't thirsty, I didn't have to go to the toilet, nothing. I was standing up. And we traveled like this, I don't know, maybe 3 days. And we came to a stop. Still closed in. And we, as I said, on the way we had the shootings that people was trying to escape. And then we came to the stop and we heard some cars were taking off the train. After it was done, it took maybe 24 hours, we continued on our journey. And as we continued through the little window, I saw the station Malkin. And I knew that station Malkin means Treblinka, the annihilation camp. It wasn't even a concentration camp. And I knew that the people who were taken off evidently went to Treblinka. We traveled for another 24 hours or so. Then we came to a stop. And all the time we had a shooting, from the people who were trying to escape. And then they opened up the doors and we had also in a fast tempo out and we saw already many corpses in our train, in our car. We had to take them out, put them on the rail tracks. In a fast tempo, march, we came to the camp of Majdanek. And there, of course, we went in, and it was August, it was hot under the open sky, no water and no food, laying on the floor. Here, I mentioned before, a refugee from Warsaw came and lived with us in the ghetto that was so very sick. And finally, he was crawling on his stomach, literally on his stomach. He crawled, came up to me, and he says, I said, what are you doing here? He says, well, I was caught and was brought here. And here I was working with the new prisoners that were brought in. And I can tell you that your sister was here, and your sister-in-laws were here with the children. They all perished. And I want to tell you something. He says, you can't escape from Majdanek, because Majdanek is an absolute death camp. But if you call any kind of occupation, a seamstress, as a carpenter, a painter, saying that you are it, and you go with this pork, you'll get out of Majdanek. But I was with a group of doctors, which was also a plus, So again, while we were laying on the sand in the morning, the whole sun was hot, no water, no food. A group of assessment came on galloping on horses, and one of them took a child from mother's arm, threw it in the air and shot it, and they applauded him, And then another night we was laying there on the sand, on the ground, and then they start calling out different occupations. And again, the carpenters, electricians, whoever, and the doctors. And I went with a group of doctors and walking towards the railroad station again. And here, if you had still a ring on your finger, of course, was taken off. And if the ring didn't come off, the finger came off right along with the ring. And again into the cattle cars, packed in tightly, and we're traveling maybe 12 hours or whatever. We came to a stop. And fast out. We still had some things that we took with us from the bunker, a pair of shoes, an extra dress in a little package. And that we still had with us, so we went out, and fast out of onto the Appel place. There we were put 5 people in a row, men separated from the women, and we were assigned to barracks. We could not go into the barrack before dark. With the dark, we went to the barrack. The barrack was a long hall, in the middle of which was a so-called stove that was never lit, made of red bricks. On both sides of the stove were bunks, 3-story high. Every bunk had a sack of straw and an army blanket. And you went on, and as I said, you couldn't go in there before it was dark. And we went into the barrack, and by rotation, it was still dark outside. The inmates would go and bring the so-called breakfast around 4 o'clock in the morning. It was still dark. And again, on the appel place, 5 people deep, and we was handed out our breakfast. It consisted of black, bitter, dark, cold coffee, so-called coffee. And we were given a metal bowl that would serve us for drinking and washing ourselves in it and eating from it. And here we were, the first day we came, we were assigned to walk. I was assigned to a barrack. There were tables, we were sitting around the tables, to sew on buttons for the uniforms of the soldiers. We assumed for the Eastern Front because it was white, the camouflage for the Siberian snow. We were assigned a certain quota, but we didn't know how much the quota was. I was walking together with my adopted mother, and she was able to do anything. So I was fast. I put her buttons in my buttons, but I didn't know whether I made the right quota because we didn't know how much the quota was. At 12 noon, a civilian German would come in and evidently see whether we had fulfilled our quota or not. We were walking there till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, in fast tempo, out of the barracks, onto the... You have some questions?
No, I was just telling her there's
The
5
time's
minutes
getting
left on the
cold.
tape.
And we were going fast again to the appel place, and here people who did not fulfill the quota were being lashed. Depends how many didn't do it, that's how many lashes they give. Many of them, of course, were killed under the lashes, were taken out to the forest where they were buried. That was Camp Blizhin, had no crematoriums and no gas
And
chambers.
how do you spell that? Sorry.
Blizyn. And now we were also by rotations. The inmates would go to the kitchen and bring the so-called supper. It was big kettles. So if you were lucky enough to get it from the bottom, you might find a peel from undescribable vegetables. And we got a loaf of bread. It was a 2 pounds loaf of bread, always green from mold, stale of course, and for 4 inmates. And we stayed outside with this. Okay, now what do you do with the bread that will last you for a whole day or tomorrow? You go into the barracks, you put it under your head, thinking, well, maybe if somebody was trying to steal, I'll wake up, or into your bosom, Yeah, I want to tell you that when we came, before we were assigned to the barracks, we went to the Entlausung to get rid of lice, which we didn't have yet, but that was cold. And here we got showered and picked up some clothes. Also first, whatever was on the table had to pick her up. And then among ourselves we exchanged things. So that was the clothing that we had, because our clothes was taken away.
What did you wear? Do you remember what you picked up?
Yes, I had a skirt, and I picked up 2 left shoes, and a skirt and a slip. But some people had the tops, didn't have the slip or underwear, so we exchanged it. She had two right shoes, so I had 2 left shoes, so we exchanged them among ourselves, that's how. And here, one of my classmate, I brought it to the camp, my winter coat, but it was trimmed with some fur. In the ghetto, you were not allowed to have fur. So in order to camouflage it, we had put on some material over that fur so they wouldn't see it. So I recognized my coat, and I said, her name was Hella. I said, Hella, this is my coat. I said, I know it's your coat. I said, why don't you give it to me? I get it. He didn't. And else little things, like that. And now we were getting our dinner, so-called. As I said, from the big kettles and the bread. So what do you do with the bread? Nobody would steal it from you. So you put it under your head. However,
How much was it, like size-wise?
you got 2 pound loaf of bread and 1/4 of it.
Oh, okay.
For 4 inmates and one. You
Alright,
understand?
well, we need to switch the tapes.
Yes.
You want to change? Okay.
Let's get this going too.
Unless, do you think there'll be another good step?
Is there another good stopping point, or do you want us to switch now?
Oh, well, then after the liquidation of Blizhin, they'll come to Auschwitz.
Oh, you wanna start there then?
Okay, I'll start there.
That's a little ways.
Okay.
Um,
Right when you come to Auschwitz, you'll change?
Yeah.
Okay, good enough.
okay, so could you give us more detail about the ride in the train, or did you just completely?
There was nothing to tell you. We were standing up. There was no place to sit. And as I said to you, everyone was coming to the little window. I had the little window because a Lithuanian guard, somehow, I don't know, he found me good looking, I suppose, I don't know. That was once upon a time, don't forget. And he said to him, she's standing at the window, you know? And that was really a privilege because he can breathe, you know, at the window. So I had the window. And he even brought me some water.
That's
That Lithuanian, you know, he brought me some water. Well, anyway, that was a little incident in between. So I'm bleeding now, right? So we walked, of course, and as I told you, the lashes people didn't fulfill the quota were given out. And till it get dark, we stayed outside, we had our little piece of bread, and again I said, what will we do, the little bread, less of it the whole day? So we had company in the barracks, who were just as hungry as we were, rats. And you would feel them crawling over your body, you know, because in the morning your bread was gone. So you didn't have it. But you know, human beings can adjust to many things, and we adjusted to that too. But in the meantime, you know, while with the hunger and the dirt, although we went to Entlausung, that as I called you for change clothes and get showers, and Brigitte had no guest chamber, so we were safe to go to the showers. So sickness was spreading, typhus, pleuritis, and so forth. The commander decided we have to have a hospital. So, of course, the inmates would build a hospital. It was a barrack with 3 departments. The first one, you went there for a week or 10 days. When you recuperated a little bit, you rested and went back to work. And the middle was already for people who were sick with contagious sicknesses, just typhus and all the different kinds of. And you know, noticeable is that the men suffered much more than the women. They couldn't take the life in the camp as much as women could tolerate, much better. So very many men was sick with different kinds of sicknesses. And strong men, I can see one man strong and took died.
So were you ever in the hospital? Did you
Oh
ever
yes,
get really sick?
I'll come to it.
Oh, okay.
I want to tell you that the first victim of typhus in that region was my adopted mother. She was a weakling, as I told you, hardly to the quota. She was the first one to take sick, and she died. But she died a normal death, you know. She died a normal death. But I took sick there, not with typhus. I had pleuritis, you know, pneumonia. But in a very harsh case. But there were doctors, but they had no medications.
Right.
So the third department of the hospital barrack was for people who were close to death, swollen from hunger, swollen from death, from the sicknesses. They would go there, from there into the forest where they were buried, because there was no crematoria in Greece. And I took sick, as I told you, and there was a girl that I had befriended while we were working at the same table in the working place. I put the buttons.
And what was her name? Do you remember?
Yeah, Biba was her name.
Biba?
Yeah, and she risked her life really. And I don't know how she organized some flour. And on the reverse side of the iron, she would bake some little patties, you know, from the flour, water and flour. And she was not allowed to go into the hospital, so she was smuggling through the separations of the boards in the wall of the hospital to put in something for me in the hospital.
Wow.
Can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine that? Risking her life to do it. Okay, here you really didn't risk your life. It wasn't Auschwitz, it was just Brigitte, but still. And you know, it was meant for me to survive. I went out of the hospital with pneumonia. I went out Christmas of 1943. Christmas of 1943, there was an announcement that a little town of Radom, R-A-D-O-M, is giving a Christmas party for the Jewish children in camp. And the mothers were such as dumb as I was when I said my father is not a doctor, you know. And they delivered the children. They believed that the Germans are giving a party for the Jewish children, Christmas time. the children were never returned. They were
How
gone.
many children do you think left?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know how many children. If someone had sense enough, this girl that baked those little patties for me, she had a little sister. She hit her. She didn't deliver her. She survived. As a matter of fact, she survived the whole war, this little girl. But she had sense enough not to believe the Germans. But I don't know how many children. There were children there. Because the people from Bialystok that came on night had children with them. Yet
Right.
there was no selection. And those children, they gave away and then they were returned. And those doctors had sense enough to give the children away. Anyhow, that was that. Also, the mortality was very great. There was from hunger, from sickness, and from being beaten. There was, Busko was one of the guards, was a real devil, just for his pleasure he was beating and screaming and yelling at us. Anyhow, and fast, you don't move fast enough for him. That was in February of 1944. Blizin was to be liquidated. Because the war, the front came closer, I suppose, and this was liquidated. So we were put back into the trailers, into the cars, the cattle cars, and traveled deeper into Germany. And I don't know, again, on the stations where we were stopped, we see Germans already there, and civilians, and looking at us like we were creatures of another world. And we came to a stop, and again, for first tempo out of the cars, that we had nothing, just the clothes that we have on. And here for the first time, we saw the uniforms of the inmates in Auschwitz. And we had a greeting, Arbeit macht frei, work makes you free. And we had the first tempo out of the cars, march, the assessment with the machine guns and the dogs, and the inmates in their uniforms, the gray and blue uniforms. Now in Auschwitz, there were not only Jews, there were different kind of prisoners. There were political prisoners, there were criminals, there were Jews, of course, gypsies, and homosexuals, and everybody had another indication, another triangle. The Jews, of course, were the yellow star, and the politics were red, the criminals were green, and so forth, So and everything had to be fast, separated, of course, the men from the women. We were put in a big hall, maybe as big as the whole house here, and bare. And here we were undressed, and we were shaved from all our body hair by men. Came in, shaved all our body hair. We were given a piece of soap with the initials RIF. We interpreted it as rein jüdische fat, pure Jewish fat. And I still had a little tiny picture of my family that I kept in my shoe. And I figured if it showers, then I'll have it when I come out. And with guest chambers, then it wouldn't matter. I was still naked, of course. And we saw, we went into the shower, came out and there were showers. So I said, I was happy that I'll come out, I'll still have the picture of my family. However, we went out.
Wait, sorry, where did you keep the picture? You held on to it?
No, I had it in my shoe.
Oh.
I left it in the shoe and I had dressed. And going to the showers, I left it in my shoe. With the hope that if it showers, I'll come out and I'll have it. And with guest chambers, it wouldn't matter. I would be guest. However, we went out, came in one way, we went out another way. It turned out showers. The whole transport from Blizin was in showers, not in guest chambers. And here again, as I said, the first time we grabbed anything that was on the table as clothing is concerned, and we were marched off to the camp. And it was a quarantine. We were not assigned to work, but we were assigned to barracks. But here you couldn't go into the barrack at all until late in the evening. There were two appels. The first, as I told, the same thing, 5 people deep. Between the barracks there were gravel. And outside, no walk, as I said, it was quarantine. And selections would take place from time to time. The food was the same as I told you before, also where the inmates go and get it, and this is what you had. But between we had also the by now infamous Dr. Mengele, Mengele, was coming and performed his selections. And there was no certain rule whether he'll take the tall ones or the small ones, the blondes or the brunettes, the fat, or the thin one, whatever he felt like, left, right. So, but believing in the ostrich policy, he will stay behind and you don't see him, maybe he won't see you. So everyone would be the fifth in the column, that was standing there. They picked out as many as he wanted and took them out and they were put in C10, the barrack C10. And through the night you would hear the screaming and the crying of the people. And in the morning it was the terrible stench of burning. Bones and skin. And the fields in Auschwitz were separated by high voltage wires, the fences. On each corner was a tower on which a soldier was staying. The assessment was being there with a machine gun. It was very easy to commit suicide in Auschwitz. You went on the wires, on the fences, you were electrocuted, or come closer to the tower and you would be shot. However, the whole time that I was in Auschwitz, I witnessed but one suicide. On the other side of the field that we were separated by the electric fences were the men that came from Brigitte with us. And as I told you, the man that sort of adopted me was a doctor. He was a dermatologist.
And that was the father of your boyfriend?
Correct.
Right.
The guards in Auschwitz were many of them were sick with venereal sicknesses. And he was treating them. Because of it, he would have a little piece of bread, sometimes a little more soup, even a little piece of clothing. He knew Auschwitz, is located in the Alp Mountains. It was wintertime. It was very, very cold. They were very poorly dressed. So by risking his life, he would go, he got me a pair of men's legs under the wires, under the fences, put it on, there was a little hill there, put it, and I would come and get it. Or a little bit of soup in a little dish, or a piece of bread. By risking his life, he did it for me. I was risking my life, I did it for myself. He did it for me, He was a special person, really. And so, it went on. I really don't know the time, because time was of no difference to us, we didn't know what's going on. And every block, by the way, had a block eldest. Was also an inmate, but came from earlier to Auschwitz, so she felt like she's already in power. And we had a girl who was Polish. She came from the Warsaw Uprising. She was sent into Auschwitz. She was screaming and beating us without mercy, screaming, "All my family went to the crematoria, I'll send you all to the crematoria." So much so that at one time she had a branch of a tree, I don't know where she got it because Auschwitz had no trees. And she was beating us with a branch. An SS lady came and took it away from her and threw it over the roof. She was worse than the SS lady. She had the power, made her no human. She wasn't human at all. So it was, I don't know what time it was, it was 1944 still. And we went to, there was a registration took place. All the blacks had to come in center of the field. In Auschwitz, the field was, on two sides was the barrack, in the middle was a big street light, So everybody had to come in the big street to be registered. The only thing that we still had in Auschwitz, up to that time, was our name. That's all we had, that was our own. Now we lost it too, because we were tattooed. You see, this is tattooed that we received. A for Auschwitz, and everybody had gotten a number. You see, it's not one straight line, it's points. Can you see that? There's a points. See, this is a point, this is a point. Every point was a stick with a needle, and the ink was put in your skin.
Wow. And that was.
And this is how we were addressed now. No names, but your numbers. We are numbers now, no people anymore. At one time we went out, we would see our men on the other field, we could see them, At one time we got up, after we were registered already, lost our names, that the men weren't there, but and the field we would at the same time, and we didn't see them. Of course we assumed they went to the concentration, to the gas chambers. Later, after the war, we found out they went to another camp. And why? None of the Belgian people were taken to the crematoria. Why? The commander of Brigitte sent a letter to Auschwitz. We didn't know it after the war. We found it out. Said that they were very hard workers, and we should use them. We should use the transport from Brigitte as workers, not to gas them. And nobody was gassed. The whole transport came to Brigitte. We were wondering why our transport came without going to the, that was the answer. We found it later. Yeah.
So your adopted mother was
She
with
was
you.
gone already. She died in Brigitte,
Oh,
remember?
right. Sorry.
So, okay, the men were gone, so we assumed they went to the gas chambers. And of course, after we were tattooed, we said, then now it will probably be our turn. However, it wasn't. Again, we were taken to a big hall and stripped naked, and Dr. Mengele came along again, and he took out one woman. Well, we knew that she was gone, right? Remember that, because I will tell you about that woman. It's also a special case. And then we were assigned to another camp where we were working. It was called Frauenkonzentrationslager, which is women concentration camp. I don't know why, but this was called. It's the same kind of a barrack, the same Blockhelderste, and we were assigned to work. I was assigned to a group that was working outside of the camp. We were walking outside the camp, accompanied actually by the assessment with the guns and the dogs. And at the entrance of the camp, or the exit from the camp, there was a group of inmates who were singing, accompanying us to work, singing different German songs.
How many of you went to work?
The whole barrack.
Oh, the whole barrack, which is about how many?
Everybody was assigned to a different group of
How many
working.
people was that then in your
I
barrack?
don't know.
You
I
don't
really don't know. I don't know how many people were in a barrack. I have no idea. And I was assigned, as I said, to a group that was going outside. We were digging ditches to put pipes into the ground, water pipes. At one point, I felt that I cannot dig anymore, and I said to my inmates, I said, I have to sit down, I can't do it. And she said, the minute you sit down, you know, the dog will come after you, and the dog are taught to kill. I didn't sit down completely, but I sort of bent down, and the dog did come. But he took the shoe off my foot, not my foot, didn't touch my foot, just took the shoe off. Again, it was meant for me to survive, you know. So going back to camp, of course, one shoe on, one shoe off, I was less in the last row. And again, we came to the entrance, again, those inmates were greeting us with songs, and here I was drafted to perform another job, namely, with a dish that was drinking from where we had to clean up the toilets into barrels that were also dragged by the inmates. And I walked like this a whole night through. Now you cannot imagine what I looked like and what I smelled like when I came into the barrack. So I approached my Blockhelderste and asked her to allow me to stay in the block. So I would wash myself and rest myself. What I got is a slap smack in the face, and I lost 4 teeth. Immediately 4 teeth fell out of my mouth. And she says, the only choice that you have is to go to the revier. You can't stay in the barrack, so you can't go to work, so the only thing is for you to do is to go to the revier. The revier was a hospital barrack. And people who went to the revier never returned. I did. So I said, I have no choice. I said goodbye to my friends, to my inmates that we befriended, and we knew that we'll never see each other again, that it's like, okay, a death sentence to go to the revier. And I couldn't do anything else, so I went to the revier. But again, I met there was an inmate, a Hungarian doctor. She took me under her wing. She says, oh, it will build you up, it will be okay. And indeed, I was resting there. She was giving me a little bit of soup, another piece of bread, and mainly I was resting, you know. After a week or 10 days, she came up and she says, you know, there are rumors that Mengele is coming to perform his selections. And of course, the ones who are here the longest are the first candidates who have to leave. So she gave me an assignment to go to the warehouse and get some clothes. I got a wonderful coat. The first time I got a uniform, and that's a concentration camp uniform. It was a coat with stripes and insignia that I'm Jewish, and a pair of shoes. But the shoes were so important. And a wonderful pair of shoes, because we spent so much time on our feet, you know.
Right.
And I was assigned to another camp where we were walking. and it was called Zigeunerlager, I mean gypsy camp. Why gypsy camp? Because a whole transport of gypsies was brought to that camp, and the whole transport was taken to the guest chambers and done away with. So we called it gypsy camp. Here there was also a big barrack. Also, the way I described before, with the oven inside, instead of the bunks, there were tables. And the inmates were sitting at the tables, and we had to make little baskets for stripes of rubber, supposedly for the bumps. Anyway, I came, it was late already, people were already sitting farther up, and I was standing with my friend at the entrance. It was terribly cold, and I couldn't do it. My fingers were turned blue. I couldn't do it. The floor lady was also an inmate. And again, I don't know whether I reminded her of a daughter or a sister, whatever. And she says, I'll take you up higher. You'll be able to make your quota and it'll be warmer. And so she did. But I said, take my girlfriend, my friend too. So the both of us.
Who was your friend and how'd you?
Zina. Zina was her name. She was from my hometown. We
So
stuck
you knew
together.
her from back home?
No, no,
maybe, or you
I
just-
got to know her in camp, but we stuck together the whole time.
And how'd you, I mean, do you have any like memories with her? Do you?
Well, the members was that we shared our bunks. We
No,
shared
but
the
I mean,
food.
how'd you guys meet and become?
In camp. Well, you went with all of them, and she was from my hometown, so we had something in common, you know.
Gotcha.
And so the both of us were sitting on a little higher. From time to time, the floor lady was lit the stove, so it was warmer up there. And at one point, I could make my quote out there. At one point, she organized somehow, I don't know, potatoes, and she baked it in the stove, inside of the stove. Can you imagine that she gave me the salted hot water to drink from the potatoes? I tell you, I still feel the taste of it. I never had such good wine that tasted so good as the salted hot water from the potatoes. And as I said, I must have reminded her of somebody in the family. Then there was an order that the four ladies were to be taken to Auschwitz proper to witness a concert, performed by the inmates, of course, at the time. All the non-Jewish musicians were there. She wanted to take me with her. But she says, if people will see, you'll think there's a corpse is walking. No flesh, no hair, just skin and bones. What shall we do? So, but she was determined to take me. She organized a big coat to make me appear bigger, put some red paper on my cheeks to make it, and a scarf on my head, and she took me. When the trucks came, she took me with her on the truck, and we went to Auschwitz proper, and there was a concert by the inmates. Needless to say that after the concert, all these musicians were taken to the crematoria and to the gas chambers.
What did they have to sing about? I mean, what
Mus-
sort of
musicians,
songs? Oh,
musicians.
musicians. Oh, okay.
Oh, there were many instruments, that they had liquidated. And we came back, of course. And also here too, from time to time, we were taken to the Entlausung to change. They were very much afraid of lice, because the lice brought so many sicknesses, So they took us there. And many times, the whole barrack went, and 10 or 15 would be left behind. They wouldn't come back. But you had to go. You had no choice, This kind of life was going on till the 18th of January 1945. In January of 1945, there was a proclamation that Auschwitz was to... Yeah, I want to mention one thing more. In August of 1944, was a revolt in Auschwitz proper. The inmates who worked at the crematoria, they called the Sonderkommando, they were called, a special group. They had organized some from the inmates who were working in the military factories, the ammunition factories, provided them with dynamite, and they dynamite 3 crematoria. 7 of them escaped. 4 were caught and brought back. And while they were caught, they were hanging for 24 hours. So we had to stay standing for the 24 hours watching them hang. They were caught back. But this was an uprising. I want to tell you, you hear sometimes that the Jews did not fight back. They did. They did fight back. Against all odds, they did fight back, even in Auschwitz. So, they were, as I said, they hung them, and we were standing there and watching them hang for 12 hours. And then, I said, in January, the 18th of January 1945, there was a proclamation Auschwitz was to be liquidated. However, they gave us a choice. You could remain in Auschwitz, or you could go without deeper into Germany, away from the front. Well, the rumors were, of course, that Auschwitz would be destroyed. They wouldn't leave any witnesses, you know. So whoever could still drag themselves went on the time called the Death March of 60% of the people of the Death March perished during the Death March. Why? They couldn't keep up with the march. They had to go for some needs, physiological needs. They were shot. And we were marched, I don't know how long, but I had a little satisfaction there too, you know, little things like that. The block eldest there, who had knocked my teeth out, you know, she was, as I told you, from Warsaw Ghetto, so she received packages from home. She somehow organized a little hand wagon, and she had all her clothes on it that she had got. Of all the people walking, she approached me to help her push the wagon. And I said, oh no, you go and do it yourself. That was my satisfaction, you know? Little things like that. We were walking and walking, and I don't know how long we came to another campus called Gross-Rosen. Here we just collapsed on the floors, whoever could still collapse. And there was a selection, people to stay in Gross-Rosen, and people who would go deeper inside. And here we were giving a piece of bread. We were so, you know, exhausted that we couldn't even get the piece of bread that was given to us. But I had the good shoes, I could walk. See? And okay, I was selected to go deeper into Germany with the others, and we came to another campus called Ravensbrück. Ravensbrück was just like Auschwitz. It had crematories, it had gas chambers, it had all the business. Now here already in Ravensbrück, there were more people coming from all other camps that were closer to the eastern border. And here you have to share your bunk, 2 or 3 to a bunk. Now what do I do with my precious shoes? That nobody will steal it from me. Again, put it as a pill under your head. Somebody will try to steal it, you'll feel it. And I got up in the morning, my shoes were gone. I didn't feel it. And I was left with a pair of shoes that only weighed 3/4 of my foot would go in. So the inmates tell me that there's a SS lady who's giving out the wooden shoes, the wooden shoes, you know. So, but they didn't tell me that in order to get the wooden shoes, you had to come barefooted. Supposedly I had shoes, you know, so I came out to the SS lady and I asked her for shoes. Shoes? You wear shoes? I flashed in the face, I put in the stomach. You got shoes, you walk in them. So that was it. We stayed there. Of course, we didn't walk. In Ravensbrück, we were not assigned to
Who did you
anyone.
bunk with? Were you still,
Strangers.
just complete
No,
strangers?
I don't know. Inmates, that's all. We all look alike. We all looked alike, believe me. But I had my girlfriend with me. Constantly, we stuck together all the time. With Zina, you know.
Right.
And after a while, we were not assigned to any workers. There were no selections taking place, nothing. We were just laying there, staying there, whatever it was. And finally, they said that we'll have to go deeper into Germany. The front is coming closer, we go deeper into Germany. Again, we started to walk, and we came to a place called Malchow, M-A-L-C-O-W. And here there was not a camp, actually. They had little bungalows. Every bungalow was as big as my kitchen. And there were 25 girls on the floor, also the sack of straw and an army blanket. And here we were watched by SS ladies, who were much worse than the men. Remember I told you that before we went to the Frauenkonzentration, to the women's camp, Mengele came and took out one woman. Remember I told you that? Here I met that woman. And she was pregnant. And she didn't know herself, and Mengele took her out, and she was pregnant. Fema was her name. I said, Fema, F-E-M-A, Fema. I said, Fema, how come you survived pregnancy? I get children are talking about it. And she says, well, I was taken out and laying on the floor for my fetus to be removed. An order came to let me go with the pregnancy. And she continued in Auschwitz with all the death march and came to Malchow, and she gave birth to a baby, a little girl. And the SS ladies who beat us and screamed at us were so merciless to us. They gave us yarn and the wires, the needles, to make clothes for the babies. That's how I learned how to knit and how to crochet, by the way, which I'm doing now. and to make close, and the baby was born in Malchow. The baby, of course, her mother died already a long time ago. The baby was living in Philadelphia. She became a doctor.
What's her name?
I don't know her name.
Oh.
I never was in touch with her. I heard it through other people, you know, that told me that she's in Philadelphia, and she became a doctor. She was married, had children. Her mother passed away since. And as we said in Malchow, just literally waiting for death to liberate us, because we didn't walk, and the assassinators were merciless, beating us and screaming at us. And the food that we had to sort of organize ourselves. Once upon a time, evidently, there were cattle or horses in the stables, and there was some leftovers, oats, you know, that you feed, or leaves that we were taking, pretending they're making salad, and little bits of bread that we're giving, you know. And there were 20 girls, or 25, 20 girls in that little bungalow in that floor, and we were pretending that we were making steaks and to make us more hungry. That's what we did, you know, reminiscing what we had food, and just literally waiting for death to liberate us. And May 1st, we looked around, no appel, no SS ladies, nobody there. We were left by ourselves with Hungarian soldiers, well, collaborators, that had guns, but we didn't know they had no ammunition to the guns, and the Germans didn't trust them either. And girls came from other camps into Malchow. And what are you sitting around? Let's break into the warehouses. The Red Cross had sent so much food for the inmates, but of course we never got it. So whoever had some strength yet in them went and indeed broke it into, and they got an awful lot of food in there, but not eating for 3 years. Some of them killed themselves by eating all the food and died, right, from overeating. The stomach couldn't take it, you know. So, and the soldiers, they said, we are not going to stay here because the Russians are coming, the Russian front was coming. We don't want to be caught by the Russians. We have to deep into Germany and be liberated by the Allies. So we had no choice. Well, we marched again. On the road, we already see broken cars and broken pieces of furniture for the Germans. They also became, you know, refugees. Place over our head. We came to a forest. We saw from afar some ditches where the peasants were preparing the potatoes for the next year. And we just threw ourselves on those potatoes, we dug them out with our fingers and ate the raw potatoes. We came back to the forest and our guards were gone. We were left by ourselves. We were 10 girls that we kept together, sort of, you know. So what are we to do now? Well, we decided to stay overnight already in the forest. And in the morning, we'll see what we can do. We walked out, we came to a little village, was called Goldenberg. And here we saw a barn. We went closer to the barn and we opened up, and there were already French POWs on the way home. And they said, come on, girls, we'll see in a day or two we'll be liberated. And sure enough, the Russians came and we were liberated. But the Russians did not believe that Jewish girls survived without collaborating with the Germans. Here, my knowledge of Russian helped. And I talked to the captain, he says, look at us, you will look for collaborators. So finally I persuaded him, he says, fine, okay, go into the house and you can take whatever the German lady, no men were not to be seen, German men were not to be seen, ladies. And she was very willing to accommodate us rather than the Russian soldiers. So she didn't have much, but whatever she had, she gave us some food and a dress. I took off my dress that was made out of her blanket, a green army blanket, and I'm not exaggerating, it walked on its own. That's how much lice it was in there. But I didn't get sick. See that?
Wow.
So we washed ourselves, you know, cold water, didn't matter at the time, and she gave us some food. And the captain said to us, there's a little bungalow there, you go in there, lock yourself in, because the soldiers don't care whether you're inmates from camps or not, you're women, and it's dangerous, they're front soldiers. So we put a big sign outside, typhus, to keep them out.
What did it say?
Typhus.
Oh.
We put a sign, typhus, to keep the soldiers out, you know. And we stayed there for overnight, and then the captain said, you'll be better off to go in the town. The town is not far, you can walk over. The town was Neubrandenburg, and here the Russians already opened up soup kitchens without control. the Allies controlled. The Russians did not. You can eat as much as you want and wherever you want. We were 4 girls from my hometown that we kept together among the 10. 4 of us were from Bialystok. We kept together. And one of her girls overaged herself and we had to leave her behind. So the 3 of us decided to go farther up north, west rather, into a bigger town. But the Russians wanted us to stay. Say, don't go away, you have food here, we'll dress you, will be a train going to the Soviet Union, and you'll be organized into a kolkhoz, which is a government farm, to become citizens of the Soviet Union. We knew what it means to be under the Russian regime. We had them for 2 years. We said, no thank you, we'll do it on our own. And we were allowed to do it. So we crossed the railroads, we came to the other town, and here, the lady was happy to accommodate us, the 4 girls, we came in there. And
Wait, there was 3 of you at the time.
3, right?
Okay.
All the 3, I'm sorry, you're right. And she said to us, well, some clothes and whatever she had, but she didn't have much either. So we're walking in the street and talking Jewish among ourselves. And she said, well, Poland is already liberated. We're sure that our hometown is liberated. Maybe we can somehow get there. There was already May or July. It was already June or July already.
Of 45, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we were walking here. 2 Russian soldiers in Russian uniforms came up to us, identified themselves as Jews in the Russian army. What can we do for you? Well, the first thing we say is food. You can give us some food, organize some food. And you will believe it, the 3 of us, plus the lady, the German lady, could consume in one sitting a whole lamb, 10 pounds potatoes, 10 pounds bread. And afterwards we'd say to the German, could you make us some fried potatoes? And all 3 of us survived it, miraculously.
That's a lot of food.
And well, that was from the beginning. After a while, we didn't eat as much, but that was the beginning. And they also brought us some clothes, and even gave us some money, Polish money. Says Poland is liberated, and Bialystok is liberated. Was liberated in August of 1944. And they said, would you like to go? I said, yes, we would like to go back to Bialystok. Maybe somebody survived. I don't think what I mentioned to you, that one of my brothers was arrested by the Soviets, and he was my only hope that maybe he was in Siberia and he had survived.
Who was that? Sorry.
My brother, Aaron.
Oh, right.
And I did mention it, didn't I? No, anyway, I'm still telling you. So the whole family I knew did not survive. But I hope that because he was not under the occupation, he was in Siberia, maybe he survived. So I wanted to go back, and they also had hoped that maybe somebody of the family, the 3 of us. And sure enough, they gave us a lot of food, a whole sack full of clothing, and even some money, Polish money, you know. And she said, there's a train going via Bialystok to the Soviet Union, and you can go on it if you want. If you see that nobody's left, the train will be there for a few days, you can come back and go to the Soviet Union. Or if you want to, you can remain in Bialystok. So we decided to go with them, of course. Usually a journey like this would take 24 hours, 36. We traveled for 3 weeks.
Wow.
By the time we came, it was already August in Poland, and sure enough, there was already an organization that looked out for the survivors, and people were already working. So a year later, and was already a normal life going
So
on.
how many people were there then when you got there?
I don't know how many people,
I
but
mean-
there were people who survived the concentration camps from the forests, and people who came back from Russia too, with the army. They were sent off to Russia and came back with the army, you know. So there I met a neighbor of ours. Would you just thank you. Hello?
Yes. Was that? Oh, sorry. You mentioned your father gave you a coin. Whatever happened to that coin?
It was taken away from me in Majdanek, remember? There were Serbs in
When they
Majdanek.
took it.
So I said, with the ring had to move with the finger, this is where the coin
That's
is.
what
I
the
was
coin went
afraid.
to.
I wasn't Serbs, I just gave it to them, you know.
Right. Okay. That was my last question. And now we're gonna switch, so she doesn't have to write
Okay.
that much more. Sorry.
Not that we could have stayed in our seats. really well. Yeah. She was back into Poland. Okay, go on. You were, okay. So everyone was back to life as normal in Poland?
In Białystok, when we came, it looked like a normal life here.
Yeah.
You know, this is I don't know whether it is a plus or minus, but human beings adjust to whatever comes, you know. Some faster, some slower, but you adjust to whatever it is. So I met a neighbor of mine, and I said, maybe my brother was here, maybe he survived. He said, you know, as a matter of fact, your brother was among the liberators. You know, there was a Panda Wasilewska, was a Polish woman in the Soviet Union who organized a division of ex-Polish citizens and fought with the Soviets against the Germans. And my brother was one of them. I'll tell you another story, just found out something, you know. He was in the army, and he was among the liberators, to liberate Białystok. Of course, he looked to find somebody of the family, but nobody was there. So he decided to go on. He could have changed clothes and remained. Many Jews did that after the liberation. He didn't. He went on. So when I came back to Białystok, I had inquired to the Red Cross, and I was told that he was killed on the front fighting the Germans. Then later on, I met somebody who was with him and verified that he was killed by fighting. And so yes, I mentioned I was already a very professional secretary, so I wanted to get a job, to do something, you know. So I went to the Jewish committee, and they said, yeah, there's a request, a government job from the bureau. It was like information and propaganda, you know what it means? Information and propaganda, you know propaganda. So if you want to work, I said, okay, well, I'll walk, I'll have to get food, because you didn't have any food, and clothes, well, you walked, you get it. So I worked, and they were so nice to me that instead of giving me one ticket for food, I got 2 tickets, and I had 2 dinners, you know. And my little girlfriend, I bought something for her home, and I also was getting some wood to warm the house. It was also because you walked, you got several privileges, you know.
So those 3 girls.
Yeah,
you
3 girls, well, 3
you
girls,
all went
and
there.
when we came to Białystok, my Zina found a cousin that was in the partisans, and she had already a place. So all of us moved into the place. She was with her husband and a little boy, and the 3 of us. We all moved in a room twice as big as the kitchen. But it didn't matter, we were together, you know, we had a roof over our heads. And I went, of course, I looked for my house, and of course it was destroyed. I have a picture on the remnants that was my house. And I walked, as I said, and it was already 1946. And Białystok was the center of this state, let's say, right? And my boss was to go to a little town, Supraśle, also from the job. And he wanted to take me with him, because I was his private secretary. But then he changed his mind. He said, you know what, it's not safe for you. 1946, it was not safe for a Jew to go into that little town. So I didn't go. So we decided, the cousin that my Zina met, they decided to leave Poland and go to Germany. There was another trend to leave Poland. You know, the anti-Semitism in Poland was still there, and you know, there was the Kielce pogrom, if you heard about it. It was after the war that several hundred Jews were killed in a hotel that they were housing survivors. And well, so they decided to go to Germany. So the room that we had was a room, just one room. It was too big for us, so we decided to go look around what we can find. And I saw that a house that belonged to my brother was still standing on the main street. Białystok was also very destroyed. And so I said, well, I'll go in and see, maybe they'll accommodate us there. So I went, myself and Zina. The 3rd girl went also to Germany with the cousins. And I went in there, and there was already some Jews that came from the little towns, because they were afraid in the little towns. They came to Bialystok, it was a bigger center, and they settled in there. And I said, can we have a room? This house, I says, this house belongs to my brother. Could I have a room here? She says, yes, you can have a room here. And so I and my Zina and another woman, Bialystok woman, was wife of a doctor, so she also had no place to be. So the three of us moved into the one room. And here I met my husband to be. My husband was liberated in 1945, and he and his brother and his sister-in-law were in hiding at a peasant's house. So it's also a special chapter, in the story. They're risking his life, the life of his family, and he kept them for 2 years, those three people. And they were there, they came from the little town, Bialystok, they settled in Bialystok, and we moved just right in like one family, So I was privileged in that case. I was walking, I would bring some food to the house and coal, wood to warm the house, so they were happy to have me there. And as I said, here I met my husband, my future husband to be, and we were there till 1946. I got married in February of 1946, and there were 300 Jews at the time in Bialystok. All 300 were invited to my wedding. And food galore, with so much food. I want to tell you a little incident. What do you remember about it? I do remember that I cried a lot at my wedding, because I had, there's a custom in Judaism that your parents bring you to the canopy, and I had no parents. So a friend of my husband's brought me to the canopy. But my hunger was so big yet that in the middle of the night, I went up and there's some food left and I ate some food. In the morning, my sister came. I said, what happened to the turkey? There's so much left over. I said, and we were go shopping, to the market. I always went with her. And my husband used to say, let her eat as much as she wants. So stop soon, let her eat. And I was very big, from eating so much. So when I applied to a job later on, to a government job, and I went to the personal secretary, she says, you're doing very well. However, you're going to have a baby, so what's the use of hiding here? I said, no, I'm not going to have a baby. Yeah, I was really big. I was never big in my life, so my stomach grew. And, so we got married, and we left Poland in August of 1946. We came to Austria, to the DP camps. And here we met friends of my husband's who were at the wedding. And I was the difference. I was standing next to my husband. She says, my God, he says, Phil, where's your wife? I said, well, here she is. She's so thin. What happened to her? Then I came back to myself. I started eating uncontrollably. So we stayed in Austria, in Wels, Austria, in the DP camps till 1949. In August of 1949, we arrived to America. And in 1950, my son was born, and we went, what do you do in America? No language, no special professions. We bought a chicken farm.
Well, okay, wait. We really want to hear about all of that also, but Allie's going to ask about the stuff after the war next time. So I just want to go back to, I love chickens, I can't wait to hear about that. But I just want to go back to just overall during the war, during the camps, during the ghetto, any time during that. Did you have any dreams of things,
yes.
Vivid dreams?
Then last week when I spoke to you, I didn't sleep a whole night. It was the things that I told you that I remembered about boyfriends, it all came back to me. And I did not sleep a wink. And usually I speak a lot in schools, and every time when I come back, it's a sleepless night. And reminiscing can bring me back and realizing how much I lost. It's not easy. But as I said, I think this was my reason for survival. Not many people can talk about the past, and I do. It took me 20 years to talk For 20 years I couldn't open my mouth, not to my family. I still don't talk to my family. They find out, well, they were in the audience when I spoke to a group of people, that's how they found out. And of course, galore tapes I have made, so they have it. But it's not easy, but I feel that I have to do it. As I said, it took me 20 years before I agreed to talk about it. And what was the reason? If you remember, it was about 40 years ago, I would say, maybe more. That was a Northwestern professor wrote a book denying the Holocaust. And the Jewish Council here in Baltimore had a show with Richard Sher. You remember Richard Sher? He's back on television, by the way. So Richard Sher had a show which he had a priest, and he had the president of the Black College. What is it called?
Morgan State? No.
The Black College in Baltimore. Are you Baltimoreans or not?
No.
Well, there's Howard.
No, not Howard is in Washington, here in Baltimore.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. He had the president of that school and a rabbi, and they invited a survivor. And they approached me that I should be on that panel. And I said to my husband, I'm not going to go. I can't talk about it, I'll just start crying, I don't want to go. So my husband says to me, listen, if you don't go and then tell them the truth, they'll believe this professor that wrote the Holocaust never happened. So even if you cry, and if you break down, go. Well, to a little persuasion, and I felt, and the Jewish Council was after me, so I finally agreed. And this is how I started talking about it. It was the first time that I talked on television, and from then on, I had so many calls for schools and churches and synagogues and private places that I kept on talking about it.
So obviously, you had dreams afterwards, but during the time that you were there, did you have any dreams? Or
I was
it
too exhausted of having dreams,
Yeah.
too exhausted, and the fear of survival. Will I be here tomorrow? I don't recall to having any dreams, but I'll tell you one thing though. I never lost faith in God. Many people did start believing in God. There was a transport coming to Auschwitz before Yom Kippur, which is the holiest days in Jewish law. We just had passed in the Jewish religion. And I told you our menus. Yet, when the Hungarian girls came, I said that tomorrow, Monday, is Yom Kippur. We fasted, some of us, including myself, didn't eat a piece of bread, didn't eat a piece of soup. And as I told you, mentioned in Auschwitz, it was so easy to commit suicide. And it never occurred to me. I will not, not only me, all the inmates felt, we will not collaborate because we'll make it easy for them. If you commit suicide, you won't have to kill us, we'll kill ourselves. So we didn't do it. It was not so much the belief that we'll survive, but to not make it easier for them to get rid of us,
So aside from Yom Kippur, did you try to do some sort of celebration for any of the other holidays? Just that one?
No, because we didn't know when they come.
Yeah.
But this happened, the Hungarian came before Yom Kippur, so we happened to know. Otherwise we didn't. We didn't know what one day from another, it was all the same,
How about when you were in the ghetto?
Oh, in the
And
ghetto we
you
celebrated,
celebrated
yeah. In a small way. Like for instance, Passover, we have to bake the matzah, It was very hard to do it in ghetto, but somehow we managed. And so we just had a symbol, that. And of course the food wasn't the way it was before, but we celebrated. My father was very, very orthodox, so we did it, yeah. But still again, a father. My father was working in a carpenting place, I mentioned it. And they had gotten from them some salami made out of horse meat. And my father, my religious father, brought it home and told me to eat it. So it'll help it survive. She wouldn't touch it, but he brought it for me. So you see, this is fatherhood, So this little incident that I mentioned, that's how it was. It was very hard. It was the hunger was very, very, very big, great. Unless, as I had a job, so I ate with them very often. And even took plate home that my father would torture because it wasn't kosher. Yes, and my brother-in-law also had a good job, so he would bring things, but also everybody ate, but not my father. He wouldn't touch it. Yeah. Anything else?
Does anybody else have anything else? Anything?
I think that's it. Trying to look back, I think that's it right now.
Oh, actually, I have one question. At what point did you find out about what happened to your other family members?
Well, from my father, right away I knew.
Right.
They were taken to my oldest brother was shot and killed. And then when I met this boy in Majdanek, he told me that my sister and the children and my sister were here, but meant they didn't survive, you know. And about my brother who was sent to Siberia, I found out he was killed on the front. The one that I never found out what happened was the brother was drafted. Remember I told you my youngest brother was there. Never found out what happened to him.
And your mother?
My mother was killed together with
right.
on the march, you know, going to the railroad stations.
And that friend of yours that told you about your family, when you first saw him crawling on the ground,
Then-
do you know what happened to him? The friend of yours that told you about
The man with epilepsy.
yeah, right. The one that was sick with epilepsy.
The lady that found out the
No, the man that told you about your family when you first got to the first camp, I think it was.
Oh, it was a woman actually.
Oh,
But she didn't tell me about it. My father told me about the family.
Oh.
Not she. She told me about my brother who came from Siberia.
oh,
That he was one of the liberators, and he kept not finding anybody in the family. He continued with the front.
Oh, I got you.
And the epileptic man who was crawling on the ground?
He
The-
didn't survive.
Yeah.
I never heard of him, so I presumed that he. Majdanek wasn't the place to survive. Majdanek, Treblinka, all the Treblinka had a uprising, and I think 3 or 4 people, I have the whole history of Treblinka, survived the uprising. But there was annihilation camps.
Were you ever involved in any resistance efforts in any of
Valin
those places?
Ghetto. You
In the
see,
ghetto.
that Mr. Busset, I wanted to tell you about him.
Yeah.
That's really important. He was a member of the Nazi Party, and he went to the meetings. He even provided me with a gun to give the underground. And those 2 girls, friends of the family, 2 girls, one was a daughter of friends of my parents, and she was in the underground. She was a runner. She would go from Białystok to Warsaw and so forth, but she looked like a non-Jew. And she was very active in the underground, and I gave it to her. And I told her where I got it. I got it from Mr. Busser. Now, the ghetto was liquidated, and I was taken away. Time?
We should change the tape, yeah.
Yes, it looks like it.
Okay.
They want to change it, right? Blinking, this supposed to blink.
That means it's
Yeah.
doing its thing, it's warming up.
Okay. Told you how much I know
Okay.
about it. So during the war, you see, when I was walking with Mr. Busser, I was talking about him, what kind of a man he is. And my neighbors used to come down and says, maybe you read second Esther Amalek in Purim. It was a Jewish woman who saved Jews, you know. So she said, maybe I'll be the one because this. So those girls, I was talking to them, to the parents, and one of them was a daughter of my parents' friends. So she heard about him also. And she, as I said, told you, she was a runner, was very active in the underground. When I came back after the war, I found out what happened. So whether you want it now or you.
Yeah.
Because it's something that happened during the war, right?
That's
So
happened
tell
during
us
the war.
now.
So those 2, after the ghetto was liquidated, those 2 girls working in the underground had an occasion to get out of the ghetto. And they went to Mr. Busser. They went to him and told him that I had told him so much about him, they are friends of mine. This man took them in, built a double wall in his place, in his house, and kept them. His wife and child left him because they didn't want to risk their lives. You can blame them. The wife didn't, the mother wouldn't risk the child. And she, being an assessment, a member of the SS party, Nazi, he kept them there during the whole war. Sometimes they would go out into the partisans with news that he would bring from the meetings from the Nazi party. And they survived, both of them survived. Now, the Russians were coming closer to this Bialystok, and the Germans were escaping. So they asked Mr. Busse to remain. I found all this out later, that he wrote it to me too, I have a whole book for me. Anyway, so they said, do remain, you tell them what kind of a person you were, you'll be safe. He says, by time you'll explain everything to the Russians, we'll all be killed. It was a possibility. So he left Bialystok, he went back to Ost-Prussia, and he was drafted in the army, because there was the siege of Königsberg, which was the capital of Prussia. When the ghetto was liquidated, he knew my address. Being a member of the Nazi party, he could go into the ghetto. So he went to my house. He found a little picture of me and 3 pieces of silverware on the floor. He picked it all up and kept it. I have it here if you want, I'll show it to you. And he kept it all through the war. When he was drafted, he divorced his wife, by the way. His first wife he divorced. And he kept it to an old friend of his, who during the war wrote to me while I was working at Mr. Busse's that she wants me to come to Tilsit. I'll try to make your life sweet. I don't have any sugar, but I'll send you some, what do you think instead of sugar?
Honey?
Sweet. Pills, the little pills. Oh God.
I don't know.
No, you do know.
Like a substitute or?
Yeah, the same. What do you use instead of sugar? Not sweet and low, the other thing.
Equal?
Not equal, little pills. Well, anyway, something like
I don't know
that.
what they're called.
Saccharin.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, girls. So she sent me a little package of saccharin to make my life sweeter. This was an old friend of Mr. Busse. When he was drafted in the army, he said, I don't know what's going to happen. Here's the picture of Bluma and the 3 little pieces of silverware. She kept it. He went to the army. He was liberated, he was caught and as a POW, and he was liberated in 1953. After his liberation, he started to look for me. So he wrote to Switzerland, and they told him there's an organization in Israel that keeps track of the concentration camp members. And of course I changed my name. So it was hard for him to find. Yet I got in touch with somebody who was with me in Brigitte, accidentally. He was the director of this group, and he told him that I'm in America and my name is so-and-so and this and this. He wrote to me. He wrote to me and told me. But he had the pictures and Switzerland copies and to verify who I am. And he says the little 3 pieces he gave to his old friend who sent you the saccharin, you remember? And she escaped from Ost-Prussia to East Berlin. Put me in touch with her. And we corresponded. She used to call me my sister is Bluma. You understand that? Because Bluma says Bluma. So she corresponded. She sent me those 3 little pieces. And because of this little picture that he picked up, he found me. And we corresponded up to his death. Now, just two girls survived that he had kept. This is all after the war. Shall I talk to you?
No, I think the story should keep going. This one.
Okay. So after the war, the girls went to Israel. They survived, and both of them went to Israel. One of them went back to Poland and took 500 Jewish children that were left with non-Jewish families and brought them to Israel. In 1971, I was in Israel with my son. We had a get-together, a reunion with Mr. Busse and those 2 girls, and we went to a wedding of one of those little girls that she had brought back from Poland. Now, one of the girls became a member of the Israeli parliament, of the Knesset, and she arranged for Mr. Busse and his new wife to come to Israel. And as I said, in 1971, we went with my son in Israel, we had a reunion, those 2 girls, and a sister of one of the girls who also survived, and myself and my son and Mr. Busse and his new wife. And it was Mr. Busse's house. He came to Israel, he was living there already. So he said, I went there and we stayed with him in his house. The government gave him a car, and of course free living in the in Israel there's a place called the Haria, which is occupied by non-Jews only, Holland and German Jews. No Jews, non-Jews, Christians. Of course, they have to sign that will not try to convert anybody. And they have, like in Holland, they have flowers, tulips, vegetables they grow. And he built a beautiful, beautiful house. And as I say, we went in 1971, my son and myself, and we had a reunion with the two girls and the one that got married, all that. And he stayed there for we constantly corresponded with each other. After a while, he couldn't take the climate in Israel, and he went back to Germany with his new wife. And he opened an atelier. He was a painter, he's an artist. So I sent him some money to open the atelier. He sent me a beautiful picture that he had built. If you want, I'll show it. It's in my bedroom. And wrote me all the things that had happened, that was happened before. All the girls already told me that too, but he wrote about it. And that was it. And then he died in 1985. And his wife died in 1998. But corresponded, they had no children. So they put me in touch, well, they were living there, so they put me in touch with a niece of his wife, and I was corresponding with her till about 3 years ago. And that was what was Goucher. He was in the Holocaust Museum in Washington. The first name of righteous Christians is Uta Larkey. And this is Grossman was one of the girls who survived and was a member of the parliament. She was the first tree. There's a garden in the Holocaust Museum. There's a garden of righteous Christians. The first tree was his. And I went 2 years ago to Israel, and I wanted to show me where's the tree. And now it's a big garden with so many. That's why I couldn't find it. So that is the chapter of Mr. Goucher. Now coming back to myself, just we married. I told you we're already in Austria, in Campbell's, and in 1949 we left for America. 1950 my son was born. We came here not knowing the language. I took 6 weeks from a Hungarian teacher who taught me the Queen's English. And when I came here, I was the one who spoke English. So I said to the people, how come I understand what you're saying? You don't understand me. They couldn't understand me, the accent and everything together, the pronunciation. So what do? We bought a chicken farm. Chickens understand any language. And I'll tell you funny things, when we came to America, of course, and I was the one who spoke English. So the farmers around helped us to go to just Lakewood, New Jersey. So we had to go to Lakewood for shopping. So they would take me, of course, because I spoke English. We came there. And we needed some toilet tissues. I saw big towel papers. I said, why should I take the little ones? I'll take the big towel papers. And I took it until my cousins came to visit us. Where's your toilet tissue? I said, here, look, it's big. They told me it's a toilet. Little incidents like that. Now the farmers were very helpful. They introduced us to the life and the attending. The eggs, I learned how to handle the eggs, different sizes and all that. My sister-in-law had a little boy with her, so she was busy with the boy. I didn't have a child yet. So I attended to this, and I had to build a cow. I never saw a live cow in my life, And I had to build it, because I was the one who had 4 families. Everybody had children. I didn't have any on the farm, just partners. So I took a little stool and a pail, and my brother-in-law held the cow, and I was to milk it. I pulled and pulled and pulled, and the pail got full with my tears with a drop of milk. And that made us sell the farm. So we sold the farm. I had some friends here in Baltimore who were in the grocery business. She said, you don't have to know English. The customers will tell you what they want, and you'll just give it to them, So we bought 4 partners again.
Okay, we're gonna wait until this for the next interview.
You want to see me again?
Yeah!
We want to see you all the time.
I don't want to take away from Allie's part of the interview. Oh, yeah, there's so much. Yeah, I guess that's it for right now.
Yeah. think.
So isn't that, I mean, it's up to you if you wanna stay, Ala, it's up to you. If you wanna stay, I can finish it, so you won't have to come, or you'd rather come again, it's up to you.
I think we'd rather come again.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see you again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're very welcome, thank you for wanting to know the details.
So I wanna know more, I just
I
wanna.
know, just, oh, you have to show us that
The picture.
Oh, and